America! And welcome to World Special Conflict Program. Today we're having an exclusive program explaining the Crimea and the Federal State of Russia conflict from two different points of view, the Ukrainian and the Russian. These reports will be given by two of our most experienced correspondents that we have, who will be Maria explaining the Ukrainian point of view and Steffi, who will be explaining the Russian point of view.
Our program will start with a brief historical explanation about the context of the conflict, and then we will make some interviews to some witnesses from Ukraine and from Russia to show what's their point of view. So, let's start. Maria and Stefania, you are on live.
Good morning, Sofia and Valentina. So, first, we'll have to clarify that the conflict actually started in 1922 when Ukraine was annexed to the Soviet Union by the Treaty of the Creation of the USSR. Then, when Stalin came to power in 1924, he started to oppress the Ukrainian community.
So, let's continue. When World War II ended in 1945, the Soviet Union was in a terrible situation of hunger and poverty. Ukraine's situation wasn't better, but Ukraine had one advantage. Its lands were fertile, and it has even considered the barn of the Soviet Union. To avoid problems with Ukraine, the USSR promised to organize the situation in Ukraine, so it started to industrialize it and after, Russia gave Ukraine Crimea.
So, this was made to celebrate the 300th anniversary of the Union of Ukraine to Russia. However, some other historians explain that it was given to Ukraine because Nikita Khrushchev needed to gain the Ukrainian support to continue with his regime. From 1954 until 1990, the situations between the Soviet Union and Ukraine were totally normal. However, in 1990, the Soviet Union was over, and Ukraine proclaimed its independence in 1991. And this wasn't a problem from Russians, but people extended for Russia to claim back Crimea. But this wasn't even asked to them.
After this, Russia and Ukraine continued exchanging goods, as gas and food. Russia maintained its naval bases in Crimea. It is also important to understand that Ukraine is divided, as some people feel that they are Russians and they want to learn the Russian culture and language. But on the other side, others feel that they are Ukrainian by heart. This is all the historical background of the conflict. Reporting from Kiev, this was Maria and Stefania, back to studio.
So, thank you girls. According to some news and some investigations, the conflict started when Ukraine President Yanukovych decided not to sign an agreement with the European Union. That certified that Ukraine was going to be part of the European Union. In Ukraine, the situation was solved by democratic ways. Some people supported the president's decision, while others started protesting.
This led to many problems in Ukraine capital. After many violent protests, the president signed an agreement with the revolutionaries, but days later he just fled, causing the citizens to occupy the president's house and were forced to elect a new president, which was Alexander Trochinov, and a new prime minister, Arseny Yatsenyuk.
However, one day after the change of the president and the prime minister, pro-Russians appeared in Simferopol, Crimea, protesting for the decision. They stand in front of the Crimean parliament shouting, "We have waited for this moment to get united to Russia." The same date, according to some BBC News, it was registered some unidentified gunmen appeared in front of Crimea's main airport. And after, Russia parliament allowed Vladimir Putin to use force in Crimea. Now, let's see what the people say. Stefania will report the Russian point of view. Stefania, you're live now.
Thank you, Valentina, and good morning, everyone again. So, people in Russia wanted that Crimea join Russia, because as the Russian president said, in people's hearts and minds, Crimea has always been an inseparable part of Russia. This was said by Vladimir Putin. And also, people in Crimea wanted to join Russia, and they even showed this when they make a referendum in 2014, where 96.4% of people from Crimea voted to join Russia. Now, are these statistics correct? Well, of course, Russia was glad to accept them, as its naval bases are in Crimea. Crimea people want to join Russia as they feel more identified with its language and culture, as they were first part of Russia, and of course, Russia was glad to accept them, as all its naval bases were in Crimea. Crimean people wanted to join Russia as they feel more identified with its language and culture, as they were first part of Russia and then they were adopted by their culture. we talked with a Crimean guy who will help us to understand the situation. Tell us, what do you feel when you knew that Crimea was part of Russia?
When I knew it, I started jumping around my house. I have always hated Crimean government, and now I could be called Russia. That night, I went out to celebrate.
And, oh my god, are there the planes coming? Sorry, are that Russian planes coming? Okay, it seems like it's nothing, so let's continue. And why were you so happy for that decision?
I was happy because Russian government can give us many good services as health or better pension. For me, this is good as I have a daughter with cancer.
Okay, so Stefania, I understand that finally Putin annexed Crimea to the territory. But what's the opinion of the pro-Russians in Ukraine and Russia?
People in Crimea are happy with the decision, as well as Russia, because their dream came real, and also Russia now has an entire control over its naval bases. However, international countries as United States declare that the way that Russia used to occupy Crimea was illegal, and they will not recognize Crimea as a part of Russia. Also, some pro-Russians from the state of Novorossiysk have started making revolts on the north part of the country because they want to be part of Russia. As a consequence, Russia and Ukraine are terrified because some people want to join Russia and others want to be part of the European Union. That's all the information from Crimea. This was Stefania. Has a good day.
The European Union's foreign policy bases a lot on the European Neighborhood Policy, the ENP, and seeks to cooperate Ukraine's economic situation and a political cooperation. Since 2012, the European Union has worked with Ukraine together, and they even signed a free trade agreement. And at this point, the people said that it will not be as beneficial as they thought it was going to be, and instead, it will bring a lot of conflicts to the country. Then, in 2013, the president, Viktor Yanukovych, installed Ukraine's parliament and started adopting Ukraine's laws to the European Union's policies. Later on, when they were about to sign everything with the European Union, Ukrainians started making riots and Yanukovych was destituted, and since then, the Crimea conflict got worse. Finally, last year, Ukraine signed an agreement with the European Union, which is still active, and it is basically the protection of the European Union to Ukraine, and as it has been doing, implementing sanctions with the United States to Russia, with its actions in the Crimean conflict. So, this was it for today, and we're going back to studio with Valentina and Sofia. Thank you. So, thank you, Stefania.
Now, we will see the other part of the story with our correspondent Maria, direct from Kiev. Maria, tell us what has happened. Thank you, Maria. And by this, we can conclude that the conflict is still unsolved. It started with the unification of Ukraine to the USSR, and it ended up on fights against them. The state of Novorossiysk is still fighting against these new rules adopted by Ukraine with Europe and Crimea. It's actually part of Russia.
Okay, so this was Valentina and Sofia reporting. With this, we conclude our program. See you next Monday at 7 a.m. And remember, you can follow us on Twitter as @Good Morning America or by Facebook as World Conflict. Have a good day.